Everybody, please welcome Cassandra Gould Van Praag. She's the co-founder and executive director of the RCM Cooperative. She has a PhD in neuroscience obtained in 2014, and she has 6 years of experience building data science communities at the Alan Turing Institute and the University of Oxford, with a data science with a particular focus, on embedding open research practices. With both qualitative and quantitative research expertise, she's a skilled analyst, strategist, and creative problem solver. She aims for maximum transparency and reproducibility in her work and prioritizes inclusive and joyful participation. You will notice that today. um, at RCM Cooperative, she's developing research community management or RCM training materials, mentoring RCMs, and facilitating research funding and performing organizations through professional community management practices. Cass is a contributor to the Turing Way handbook on reproducible, ethical, and collaborative data science, and the co-founder of the Open Research Calendar. And she is the co-chair of the OHBM Open Science Room in 2020, and a fellow of the Software Sustainability Institute. And with that, again, more people have joined, so I'll just remind you, if you can, please keep your cameras turned on. And with that, please take it away, Cass.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. It sounds ridiculous when you say all out loud bios, but I have done those things, and that has brought me to a place where one of my favorite things to do is help other people achieve community open science and GitHub joy, as joyful as we can get on Zoom. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share some processes and methodology and thoughts and things with you all today. So I was in Montreal for September to December last year, did the Open Scientist in Residence program, and I met Ruan and Naveed and obviously Marie, and I was so impressed with the work that you're doing to build capacity in open science, like locally. And I was like, let me do a presentation for you. We talked about what would be useful and wanted something hands-on. So we went with a good old-fashioned GitHub, because there's always people that need to know how to use GitHub. So I'm just going to share my, oops, I need to move this here window. I'm going to go rogue and share my whole screen so you can see slides and the websites that we'll be looking at. If I have done this right, I've also turned off my notifications, so you shouldn't see any weird email pings. Let me see there. There we go. So on the left here is the slides that we'll be working through. And then this is going to be like participatory. So I'm going to give you links, and you're going to have a place where you can find all the links. And I'd love you to follow along as we go. I'm not sure if that's annoying. Forgive me looking over here while I'm looking at you, and looking over here when I'm looking at the slides. So slide profile. So yeah, follow along. There's going to be exercises, and also on the call with us here today is Emma Caroon, who's she was my line manager at the Turing Institute, and she's now co-founder of the RCM Cooperative with me. So Emma is going to be in the background. If you can see her, she's there. Give everyone a wave. Emma's going to be in the background doing merging of pull requests that you're all going to be submitting when you're amazing GitHub users. So this is 9 p.m. at 8 p.m. at the moment in the UK. So Emma kindly joined the call for us, but then we're going to release her to be camera off and just merging PRs in the background. We've got 2 hours. I want to give you a break in the middle. So we're going to go until like the end of the hour and then look for a break. I'm going to stay on the call during that break. I've got my thermos of tea. So I'll be here to chat, but you definitely don't need to stay. Go and have a stretch and a breather. What else? I've actually got a housekeeping slide because I will forget everything. So what we're doing today is something we call a training that we call Git Good And I think we call it that because it sounds fun. Um, and at the end of it, you'll be good at using Git. Um, as you said, I'm the executive director of the RCM Cooperative, so Research Community Management Cooperative of Research Community Managers. And the materials that I'm going to be sharing with you are um, based on training that has been run and developed by the Turing Way. Let's do a first reactions. Could you please use either the thumb or some other emoji to, if you've heard of or used the Turing Way before? Nobody's used the Turing Way, so this is your first introduction to it, which so I'm going to make it good for you. As you'll see, Turing Way is a really useful resource for everything there is to know about doing collaborative. I'll give you this link. It is a handbook to reproducible, ethical, and collaborative data science. So when you do open science, you'll have many questions about how to do many things, and this is where you can find out how to do it. But more than just a handbook, it's a community of people that contribute to it. So come and connect with people that also care about these things. It has it originated very closely with neuroimaging. So thank you, Emma. It will fit quite well with neurotype folks, but also not only neuroimaging. So Turing Way. So the materials are built on a number of versions of this training that have been contributed to by these lovely folks here. So we're all about attribution. Thank you to these people. And onto housekeeping. So you've got the link to this window that I've got a page open on the right here. If I could ask you all to, assuming that you've got a computer and you're not working on your phone, if you're on your phone, it's not going to be so easy. But if you're on the computer, jump onto this website here, and then I'll guide you from there. So we're recording. Feel free to keep your camera off. I love to see your faces so I can see like who's smiling, who's crying. And there'll be a number of points throughout where I'll ask you to raise hands or put things in the chat as and when you'd like to, and try and answer each other's problems as well, or answer each other's questions. And then Ruwan and Naveed, if there's something that feels like it's like everyone is completely lost, interrupt me and we'll address it then. If not, we'll wait to kind of the break points. All good. Lovely. And then code of conduct is kind of the parameters or the agreement that we have between each other about how we will interact with each other in these kinds of spaces and any spaces. So as this event is, Emma and I are the only kind of outsiders here. This falls under your McGill Faculty of Medicine Code of Conduct, where you're encouraged to demonstrate respect and appreciation for your colleagues. I was going to try and demonstrate my respect and appreciation by translating that into French, but I was so worried that it was going to be definitely not French that I apologize for only offering this in English today. Here's a link to your formal code of conduct and reporting if there's any breaches. There's a methodology for that. All good. Okay, so first activity. Can you please use your reactions? Can you put up a yes, a tick, if you have already got a GitHub account, or a no if you have not got a GitHub account? Take down my no. Great. I see one no. There may be more. Okay, so the enthusiastic thumbs everywhere is joyful. If you haven't got a GitHub account and you'd like to follow along with the exercises, I would love for you to make one now. Okay, it takes not very long at all. So I'm going to give you, follow along with me on the clicks. Clicked the wrong button. So you're in the Git Good repository. Come through with me to workshops, and then 202602. Open Science Office Hours. So all of our stuff that you'll need for today is in this folder. I'll talk about navigation and things as well. And here is your list of links. So all the links that I'm going to give you today are in this document. So they're here for you for posterity. If you want to put them in chat and that's a good way to access them, that's absolutely wonderful as well. And they're here. So we're in this housekeeping kind of part of the talk. Here's a link to this repository, obviously. This is a practice space where you are going to be practice contributing to a repository. So we've got two main spots. One is called Turing Way Git Good, and one is called Turing Way Git Good Practice Space. Another important one for you to do, there's your code of conduct, and then here is your link to sign up for a GitHub account if you haven't got one already. I'm logged in, so it's not showing me the same page. So go ahead and make your GitHub accounts. They are free. They are a fantastic way to demonstrate, visibly demonstrate the work that you're doing on projects, and they come with you. So as you change institutions, your GitHub account will follow you. So it's a great way for kind of maintaining a record of your work. And I think you can also link them to your ORCID, which you should definitely do. So we've made our GitHub accounts, or we're making them. And then one other thing to flag, the link to the GitHub repo, someone on that, I'll let you. Here is your list of links there. So this GitHub train, there are many different types of GitHub training. This is the one I give. This is explicitly not going to be very code-based. It's not going to be super technical, because for many people, going straight into that terminal and stuff is completely off-putting. And in the wild, the first place that you might interact with GitHub is to see someone else's repository. So we're kind of doing it that way first. You imagine that you've come across someone's repository and you need to sort of know how to work through it and do some stuff. So this is not a very technical heavy tutorial. If you would like one of those, which are wonderful, and hopefully you'll be inspired to look at something like that, then you've got this lovely resource that was created for the brain hack, which happened earlier this year. And I also found the office hours from last year. That was a lovely one as well. So I recommend having a look at the YouTube for Open Science Office Hours and have a look for Kendra's talk. And then those two links are there as well. All good. I have a little bit of tea left. It's at that awkward point where the tea bag's probably going to hit me in the face if I take a swig. Do that. Okay. So the aim of today is for you to feel more confident in how you interact with GitHub. So we did there was a survey before when you registered, and we asked Naveed and Rowan asked your kind of experience with GitHub. Can you give me a what sort of reaction should we have? We'll just stick with a red cross if you're not an expert in GitHub. A red cross if you think that you've got stuff to learn about GitHub. Beautiful. So we're all in the same boat here, right? Everyone, we're all here learning. I've still got things to learn about GitHub. I know Emma would say she's also got things to learn about GitHub. So we're going to do our best. And at the end of the session, hopefully you'll feel a bit better, right? Hopefully you'll feel a bit more confident. So that's all we're trying to do. Feel more confident when you interact with GitHub, when you contribute to other people's materials, and also when you set up your own repositories to receive contributions for other people as well. Can someone just give me a quick, I didn't check, is the like text size and everything on here okay for you, or does this look, give me a thumb. You can read this, is legible. Great, lovely, lovely, lovely. And feel free to press your red crosses again to take them down, unless you want to stay red crosses the whole time, which you're also welcome to do. So not only will you feel more confident with all of this, I want you to know where you can get more help. So one place you can get help is coming directly to me. And as part of this kind of stuff that Open Science Office Hours do, there is the opportunity to do some one-to-one work, which I'm very pleased to do. And sometimes that's exactly the way that we need to work. And I love doing that. There's also many resources I've given you two already, and you've got each other to help. So if you don't come out of it feeling like you know everything now, which would be understandable, do you know where to get help if and when you need it? Okay, so not lofty ambitions. And our explicit agenda is we'll be looking at what Git and GitHub are, if they're not the same thing. We're going to do an exercise where you contribute, you comment on an issue, and that will have you practicing kind of contributing in an open way and using Markdown, which I'll tell you about. I'm going to talk a bit about what open source is, and particularly talking about open source licenses and why they're so important. The license bit gets a bit like heavy and boring, but they're really, really important. So I probably should have put that on the like aims. Like I want you to come out going, next time I put something out in public, I'm going to put a license on it. Every talk that I do has a DOI and a license. That means that this becomes a citable object that can go on my CV, and I'm telling you exactly how you can use it by applying that license. And I'll explain what that means. I'm going to do a quick demo about the terminal, like not more than 30 seconds, and then we're going to be, you're going to be submitting a pull request. So this maybe, hopefully, will be your first pull request, and we will celebrate that together. And again, you'll be practicing Markdown. And then if time allows, I'll quickly show you another couple of things that you can do with GitHub, but that's kind of the end of our exercises. Basically, you can make wonderful websites and you can do wonderful project management. And then I've got some resources for how to do that. All good. So let's get into it. So GitHub, most people know it as a thing for programmers, and their kind of like language around it is it's where the world builds software. And it's one of the places that the world builds software, but also that kind of messaging makes it sound like it is only for people who are building software. The tools that have been developed for the building of software are also great for working on anything that contains letters and numbers and characters and images to a certain extent, and doing that in a kind of collaborative, distributed way. So documentation, software is just words. Documentation is just words. It all works the same. So GitHub is for everyone. My village is trying to do some community organizing, and I was like, oh, should I teach them GitHub? No, I don't think. GitHub is for all researchers. So please know that this is a space that you should feel welcome in. So the reason it is so useful is because it is a really quick way of sharing something which looks professional, which is super handy. So it could be like a web page, or it could just be a single document. So this looks kind of cool. If you want to share something with people, why not do it like this? It allows you to track changes in a very precise way, more precise than doing like track changes in Word or Google Docs or something. It allows you to bring in contributions from other people. And as we're good open scientists, we know that more contributions means more robust research. And another really cool thing is this open kind of to-do list. So people can see what you're working on, and they can suggest things that you might want to consider for your materials or your research or whatever. So it's like a public to-do list. And it's straightforward to license and DOI, digital object identifier, your materials to make them reusable and citable. I'm just going to open that list of links again. Yeah. So we've talked about GitHub, the actual software underneath GitHub, which allows it to do its like version control and tracking of things, is called Git. And Git is free and is free and open source, which means anyone can use it and anyone can build on it. Oops. And often it is kind of pre-installed on computers at the moment, well, as in didn't used to be, but now a new Mac will have Git already installed. So Git is the software in the background. GitHub is the front end, the kind of like the social platform where you can interact with projects that are using Git. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like a social front end for you and all your friends that are using Git. And the a cool feature about it is that you can very effectively and flexibly give permission to people to interact with your Git work. You can give very careful control limits, or you can make things very open, quite flexibly. So GitHub is one of multiple like tools that are at this front end. One of them that you've probably heard of is GitLab. I'll give an example of that. But there's also other ones like Codeberg that I've got like one project in Codeberg with people at the moment. Bitbucket has been around for longer, and SourceHut. Apparently, SourceHut is like the hacker's choice. So just remember that GitHub is just one of the ways of doing things. We're in GitHub now because that's where we've been for a long while, but don't feel that you have to use GitHub going forwards. So a small kind of opportunity to think here is what we are trying to achieve here is distributed collaboration. That means multiple people working on, let's say, a paper or a report or analysis or something, working on, or a whole project from different places at different times. And that sort of different places, different times bit is where it's distributed, but the collaborative bit is where you're all kind of working on the same thing. So very pleased to take hands, or if you want to put some comments in chat. When you're kind of working in these distributed ways, what do you think some of the challenges might be that we experience? And 10 points to the first person that feels brave enough to put their hand up and ask a question. Ending up in the wrong version, John. You do. John, you get 7 points for putting an answer. There's no points. Thank you. Multiple conflicting edits. Yes. Doubling the work. So you're all stepping on each other's toes. Conflicting edits. What a nightmare. I'm trying to think of like when you like email. I've got one person I'm working with at the moment that can only seem to manage to just email me a Word doc, and then we email that Word doc to some other people and they make the edits, and then you get it back from these people and you're like, how am I going to integrate all these things? And Word tries, but really it doesn't handle it very well. File naming, all of these things. Yeah. So how do you think version control might help address that problem? I haven't even actually said what version control is. Would someone like to sort of offer it's not a trick question. What do you think version control means? Tracking changes. Yes, moving back in time. So kind of like this image here, we've all these images are made for the Turing Way project and they're licensed for anyone's use. So feel free to reuse them in whatever place you like. When there is a clear and distinct record of what is the active version now, And if you need to at any point, you can go back to a previous version in time and kind of restore that one. You can also, as you'll see in the kind of repository, you can see where specific changes are made on like individual lines and by whom and at what time and what other things happened at the same time. So it's just a more tightly managed and more kind of information rich way of looking at different versions of documents. So by using version control in these distributed teams, one, you get over the problem of like working on the wrong version. But also when people are making changes and they happen to be in different versions, they can be kind of, can you see, they can be merged together in a way that you can decide which is the right entry and keep on top of conflicting information. Thank you, Emma, for the Scriberia link. So some sort of specific parts of the version control system and the GitHub like front end, which support this distributed collaboration are version control. Say, for example, if someone spots a broken link, you can then fix the link and then you've instantly got a new version and everyone continues to be working on the correct version. So no accidentally emailing the wrong version to someone or the supervisor looking at the wrong version of the file and things like this. The pull request process that we're going to practice today means that when changes are made, there's a system for looking at them and saying, yes, I accept this change, or no, there's something else that needs to happen. So this is kind of like managing the incoming flow of information. We also love that changes come with attribution, so you can see who's made those changes. So when you put in a lot of work into something, there is a forever record of the contributions, the work that you've made. And this is like essential for when you're a trainee and you need to deal with the fact that it might take 2 years to publish a paper. You can see your contributions there and there's a record of them and we can celebrate and thank people for them. And that kind of attribution means that there's transparency about who's doing what and also accountability for who's doing what. The project management part of this also kind of builds on that transparency and accountability bit. It's like assign a task to a person and then that task gets complete. And all of this can be shared globally. So it's like the nerdiest way of working with multiple people, but it's such a powerful methodology that I hope that's what I would say. Like it's just confident. I want you to feel more confident in having a go with it because of all of these good things that it can bring you. So we're going to look at a proper website, GitHub website. I'm going to kind of point out these bits, and if there's something that you can see in the web page in the repository that you want us all to look at, please drop it in the chat or put your hand up, and we'll have a look together. So I'm going to try and remember to keep this page open and just go back to the So when you go to any GitHub repository, the repository is just a directory in the same way that you have folders and directories in your computer and your Google Drive, whatever. It's just a directory. So this repository repo directory is it's owned under or managed under the organization of the Turing Way, and this is a repository called Git Good. Every time you open a repository, if there is a file kind of at the top level or the base level, depending which way you think, called README, that page will always be rendered, like displayed on the front. So this is all the files and directories in this repository, and this is the README down there. We can also click on the README and it shows us just that file by itself. Some things that you should be looking out for in your repositories are these files in capital letters because they're so incredibly important, they get capital letters. You've got your contributing, and this tells people if how to interact with your work. So this repo has got a very complicated contributing guide, which links all the way to the Turing Way's very detailed contributing guide. How, if you want to get involved with this work, how you can do that. Doesn't need to be as complicated as that, but we have lots of thought about this. Your code of conduct, which is how we make sure that there's we strive for a safer environment for people to collaborate in. And then the other super important one here is your license, which details the terms of how you want your things to be shared. So if you see a repository that has all of those things in, that's a very good sign. If you don't put all of those things in your repository, it's not the end of the world, but you do lose 5 points. They're relatively easy to put in, and they're a good habit to build. Other cool things, I just need to move this over there. This is issues. This is your to-do list. And in this repository, I've only got one to-do item. Oh, look, I've done that bit. And I did that bit. I forgot that. So this is my public to-do list. Other repositories have more complicated to-do lists. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I should have had this. So these are repositories that I have with RCM Co-op, and this is a bunch of issues about this partnership training we're leading. And this is an issue about how we gained the money to do this one. This is an issue how we organized the kind of the logistics of running the session, and other. Let's go for the Turing Way. So this is the repository for the book of the Turing Way, and look, they have 484 open issues and even more closed ones. And then you have these, like, you can put these labels on them. Good first issue is something to look out for if you're trying to do something for the first time, or you're not feeling super confident. This is them saying this should be not the most technically complex task. It might not be easy if you've never done it before, but they're saying this is a safe thing for you to try. Issues. We have this other thing called pull requests, which is when you give people, kind of ask people to take your changes, and then if there are some changes that haven't been accepted yet, they live here in this open, and then there's also a record of the closed ones. So before we jumped on the call, Emma and I did a little practice pull request, and in there you can see that this one file was changed, and this is what the change was. It added this line here. Pull requests, and we've got projects. I have got a link for this project. So this is a repository for organizing a week-long training thing that happens with the Turing Way. And they've used GitHub projects to like schedule when activities have to happen. So on the 19th of August, this activity was supposed to happen, and this one happens. So you can see how these, like, you can do it like Gantt charts and things, and there's other ways you can use it. And then if we click on it, there's more information about it, and you can link it to an issue. That's projects. What was next? Contributors. Let me go here. So there's contributors here, which are the people that have actually submitted code to your repository or submitted material to your repository. And then you can also recognize contributors, because there are people that do things that don't always mean they write directly into your code. So you can kind of acknowledge those people using a tool called All Contributors, which you can find information about as well. And this bit, all of this stuff like navigating, orienting is like the most learny part of all of this material. So I apologize that it's not super fun. But it's important that I don't want you to not know what you're looking at. So when you open a file, I've just opened the README, there's a few different ways you can look at it. This preview mode is like the prettiest version. You can also look at the code, which is the Markdown syntax. So you can see here when you put one hash mark, then a space, and then write something, it assigns that to like a level 1 heading. 2 hash marks and then space and the word makes a level 2 heading. So this is just using Markdown. And this is a link. And using Markdown, this is how we write a link. So if ever you see something on a web page that, or something in a GitHub repository, remember that this is just the pretty front-end version, but what actually people wrote is in this syntax here. And I think I have a Markdown cheat sheet, which tells you like how to use this syntax. It's like a very simple sort of code. So just back to here, we've got a preview, our code. This word here, blame, which like is, it feels like an angry thing. It feels like, think of a better word than blame, right? So what blame is doing is telling you who was the last person to change this line. So the last time this line here, line 1 was changed was by me in this first commit. The last time, or all of those, last time this line was changed was by me in this commit here. So if your stuff breaks, you can go, who wrote this line that broke everything? And you can see exactly who they were. What else? And let's go quickly. This is the cool version control stuff. All of that is possible because of that. I've just gone to history. Each time I make a change, you get this little number up here. This sort of like, this is a shortcode for it. But if you go to history, that shows you all the times this file was changed. And then here is the kind of the details of the change that was made at that time. You can copy that code, which is useful for things. You can click on that time that was changed and see the specific change that was made. So on the left is what the file was before I made this change. On the right is what it was changed into. And you can see I traveled in time and changed the date there. So this is we call the diff, the difference between the two files, which is very useful. Then just wanted to flag the difference between organizations. So an organization has multiple repositories under it. So here's the Turing Way organization. Let's look at RCM Cooperative again. Here's the RCM Co-op organization. Here's a bunch of our repositories. I have access to this repository, this organization, sorry, so I can see the ones that are public, but also there are some private ones. So when you look at the RCM Cooperative organization, it won't look exactly the same. You'll only see the public ones. And then you can see who's a member of that organization. These people are all members of this organization, which means they have different access levels on their repositories. But then if you go to an individual repository, not everyone who is a member of the organization necessarily has access to every repository there. So just to sort of say that there is an organization which is called CastGVP, which is my username on GitHub, and there will be an organization which has your username, and these are all your repositories sitting under there. So different levels of organizing and different ways of assigning access based on organizational repository levels. I got a new photo done. A new photo was accidentally taken while I was in McGill, and I finally got to update the one from when I had pink hair multiple years ago. Okay, so that is, thank you. That is the end of the talking part. And now we're going to have a little practice exercise. And let me just quickly flick through the sides. Great. And we're right on time for a little break. So I'll pause there. What are your questions about what you've seen so far? Is there anything else on repository, like navigation, anything that we missed? There are multiple buttons that we didn't look at, but I feel like those were kind of good enough ones. Explain issues again. Yeah, I'm going to try and remember to close many tabs because we'll be stuck there forever. And how to flag a typo on page 8. John, you can fix that in the PR part later. Where's John? There you are. Hello. Fix all the typos. So issues. In fact, we're going to come into that. So that's actually the exercise. So is there anything other than issues and fixing my typos that folks want to look again at quickly? We're all good. Okay. Well, if anything comes up, don't hesitate to ask. So we're going to go into issues. Where are you? Exercise 1. So you're all got your list of links. Come with me over to this exercise 1 instructions. So an issue is a place for you and your collaborators to have a discussion about something. An issue generally should be something that has an endpoint. So a good issue is not a good issue is something which can be closed, basically, that there can be an answer and this can be finished. So how do I be a good parent is probably not a good issue. That is more of a discussion. We're going to look at an issue now, and you're going to sort of see how it can be used. And it's just basically an open public conversation about something, which is all but structured in a way that means that conversation is recorded, and you can kind of cluster them in ways and group them in ways that for your project management activity. So let's get into it. So your ask here is in the practice space, which you can get to from the exercise 1 instructions here, and Emma's put the link in there for you as well. It says, go to the issues for this repo, this repository, and find the one called exercise 1 check-in, and it's issue number 3, and answer the question. So I'm going to go in. I've only got 2 issues in here because this is not a very old repository. My first one is, oh, look, that one is fixed. Me setting up the repository and explaining why I haven't done these things, right? So if you care about these things about connecting with Zenodo, here's my kind of telling the world about why I haven't done that thing. But we don't care about this issue today. We want to go this one. So your task now, and go, if you want to run ahead and start doing this, you're welcome to, and we'll see how things changes. This is a place where you can practice commenting on an issue. So imagine you found someone's repository, they're doing amazing work and you want to help them, or you want to collaborate with them, or you've seen a typo. Is that another one? I don't know, who knows? This is where you can sort of reach out to that person and say, hello, I would like to talk to you about this. And often when people have their contributing guides, the first thing they'll say is open an issue, because there is a public record of your interest and it looks really good for people to be engaging with their repositories and opening issues. So this is why we should practice it now. So this is just a test. This is a toy thing. We first want to for you to indicate whether you think see another typo, Open Science Office Hours should run a GitHub training session every year. Do you think they should? And I've asked for you to respond to that using emojis. So here we are. So some people are like absolutely rocket keen for more GitHub training. Most people are pretty positively keen. Yes, please. So limited range of emojis, but good enough to indicate. So for some of our governance for the cooperative, we are literally making decisions by going like thumbs up or thumbs down. And this record is maintained. Your second task on this issue is to, in one or a couple of sentences, um, tell us about your current relationship with version control and or GitHub documentation. So um, I'm going to add, so you're logged into GitHub, so you won't see me there, you'll see you. And I'll say, I bloomin' love documentation. Document everything. Great. And I'm also, because I've got my keyboard, I've got the power of all emojis. Comment. So you have contributed to this repository. I had a question that I was interested in your feedback on, and you've answered it. So you are contributing to the comments and you're expressing your opinions and you're sharing your expertise. So this is a super lightweight way of contributing to the world via GitHub. Um, Emma, yes, Emma is a professional documenter, and we all wish we had more time for the things we love. So I invite you now to have a little go at writing in that issue. You have you can work in Markdown here. So if you wanted to, I could go boom, heading, and that's put like that. So if you want to have a little practice with Markdown there, you can, but you also don't have to. So you can also, if I wanted to make that a link, I could do it like this, click link, and it's already kind of made the syntax for me. And that's where you would put like your actual URL. So we'll come back to the discussion. Let's have can we go like 7 minutes? So we're just at the top of the hour. Have a little stretch back and keep playing, doing whatever you want to do. Remember that this is public and it's not forever, like it can be deleted, but don't say something here that you don't want your mum or PI to read. So I'm going to stay on the call. You're very welcome to cameras off, disappear, take a stretch, or stay on if you want to have a chat as well. And I think for the recording, we can probably edit this bit out as well. So let's have a bit of a open space. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a little bit of discussion time now. Again, hands chat, however you like it. So based on what you've seen so far, what do you think the pros and cons are for using GitHub to manage your own materials, right? Not every repo has to be public, it can be private. So what do you think the pros and cons are of using it for your own materials? What about for when you're working with a group, but you want that to be private? So shared materials, but to a small team. What about shared materials that you want to be in a public space? Does anyone want to say anything out loud about, what your thoughts are so far? Louisa, I'm going to put you on the spot because you are newly wedded to version control and GitHub and stuff. What do you think? Can you tell me, mention any like pros and cons for using it in these different ways, right? Because there's some pros and cons that would be consistent across everything, and some that are specific to how you're using it.
Sure. Like my experience with GitHub was website building. So at the back end of the website, I thought um, it was good the way that you can see like who did what and like in which order. The one thing that I found that took me a while to understand with GitHub is that you can only do one pull request per time. So if you try to do more than one, then I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but when I was doing it, if you try to do another pull request before the one gets accepted or processed, then um, it gets canceled. And it took me quite a while to
Yeah.
discover that one. So I was like, why nothing is showing up? And then, but it's good to know that like you can track when it goes live. But it also takes a little while to process sometimes pull requests. But it does have a nice way, I think, to kind of feature code. And I thought it was quite intuitive. Like if you have a few pages already, if someone started working on it before, it's kind of easy to copy and paste and things like
Mhm.
that. And I think for transparency, for you can like everyone can see what's going on, right? These are some of the things like maybe too specific to the task that I was doing, but these were like the advantages that I
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah, I think you're nailing lots of bits there. That I mean, obviously the transparency is great, and with a lot of open science, we can say that you're being transparent to yourself in like 6 months' time or a year's time about how you did something when you have to come back and edit some analysis after reviewers' comments or something like that. So transparency is not just for the rest of the world, it's also your own as well. But it's not there are these mechanisms about like managing merge conflicts and things, but they're not foolproof. And in fact, they can be so problematic that that's why Emma is on this call right now to literally handle those kinds of situations that you've described. I think the one like perennial issue with all of this is that there's like a learning curve. There's like a technical adoption learning curve. So if you try and get your professor super PI to use GitHub because you think it's an amazing tool and they are not already working in this way, you might struggle to get them to adopt this kind of processes and things. So some groups are like, yeah, we're all using GitHub already and that's fine. But if you already have this like adoption barrier, that can really limit things. Um, anything else? So Emma is saying that, yeah, so when you're trying to collaborate um, with people across different institutions, it can be really hard to get other people into your like Microsoft Teams, for example. And like if you ever had like clashing on like I'm in multiple teams in different organizations, and even just trying to get access to them now is like so hard. This is a way that you have much more control over who access the documents and or your materials in a way that kind of can get you around some of the institutional barriers. But then you also have to take responsibility for the access that you're providing people, right? If you're going to circumnavigate your institutional security policies, then you take responsibility for what goes on there. So be very sure that you're confident with who you're giving access to your materials and be sure that the permissions are carefully kind of that you're aware of what level of access you're giving to people. But yeah, being able to work quickly with people in a robust way, getting around Microsoft Teams is a fantastic. And also, it this is owned by Microsoft now, but it's not a Google Doc, so big tech things. Um, and Natalia is saying that she's never used GitHub for public collaboration, but felt it would be difficult to keep up with the changes everyone makes. My experience with it is for personal script storage and keeping previous versions of code. It's great for that. Agree. if you're the only one making the changes, it is a much cleaner experience. In reality, if you've put code out there and people are making like pull requests or changes to it, it would be amazing if you get floods of changes and that you've got like lots of that to manage. But I think more often it'll be like a little bit, a little thing. If you get masses of recommendations, then you have great evidence for putting some more resource into this work. There's a comment about the recording and the slides. Yep, slides are already published. The slides are also in here. Git Github workshops. So just back to this one thing place that you need, and these are the slides here. There's the PDF and the PowerPoint that we'll use to change later. Slides are there, and they are also published. So no as everyone said. Great. Okay, we will go on and see where we get to for time. I want to get you to the next exercise, so I might go through the license stuff quite quickly, but I would love you to see it. So, licensing. I took a deep breath because it's so dry, but so important. Open source. When we talk about open source, what we're kind of inferring is a history around people who wanted to create software and give it to other people for free. So its roots is from the free software movement. Something being free doesn't mean it's open source. And I'll explain why that is. But what the situation that things are in now is that there are lots of old bits of open source software that have been combined into so many larger packages that this is a XKCD like comic of, you know, this little bit of open source project, some repo somewhere, which is propping up this entire ecosystem of activity. So this might be, for example, a little modeling kind of formula, parametric regression, something. And the little bit of code has then been used by so many other people in their kind of resource, their work. And if that something happens with that little bit of code, that package, the whole thing will come toppling down to more or less extent. So open source is essential to the ecosystem, and also increasingly the big tech companies are aware of how much of their work benefits from open source and how they have a bit of a responsibility for like maintaining the open source ecosystem. But as I said, it is free to distribute, but that's not all it means. It also means that the code that something was written with that build the software that is available for you to look at. An open source license means that you're able to do stuff with the code. You're allowed to remix it or derive things from it. And like a fully open source license means that anyone could do stuff with this code. So open source is specifically talking about code, but it's now kind of the same principles are applied in terms of open knowledge, open data, open documentation, open science. All of these things should be in place when we're talking about like open something. So open documentation, people should be able to see the code, people should be able to do stuff with it, and anyone should be able to do something with it. You are definitely using already open source software. If anyone wants to add that to the chat, like stop for a minute and think about what open source software you've used in the past or you use maybe as part of your research, do share that with us now. Lovely. My PhD, I was using SPM, open source. For open source to work, to ensure that we can do things like do other stuff with the materials, allow anyone to do it, we need to have a legal kind of framing for that stuff to happen. If we don't have this legal framing, which is a license, then by default, anything that you share is automatically closed, is protected by all rights reserved copyright law. So if I put this material out here without a license, you can't do anything with it legally. You could do stuff with it if you wanted to, but we're trying to set a frame here that we want to make it clear to our community or our collaborators what they can and what we don't want them to be able to do with it. Whether if someone used my resources in a way that contravened my license, whether I'd have the legal resource to come down on them, that's another question. But we're going to try and be legitimate here. So your license tells the world, this is mine, I own it, I created it, but I'm giving you legal permission to use it under these certain conditions. If you don't put a license on something, you are not letting people use it. So the thing about fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, licenses are an essential part of that. People can't reuse things if they're not licensed. It also safeguards the kind of the sharing. So people are often nervous about sharing their materials because they think it might be used in ways that they don't want them to be used. But by applying a license, you're literally creating a contract around how your work can be used. And when I say apply license, depending on what, whether you're creating code or hardware or software, applying a license often just means having this file called license, right? And that's it. That is my communication to the world, how I want my work to be used. And I'm not going to write the license. I'm going to use a legal text that's been scrutinized by many people and just kind of know that that will fit for my context. And that's the rules that we're going to work by. It also protects you from liability. So if you put work out there and you put it on an open license, you're saying you can do whatever you want with this, but whatever you do with it is not my fault. You're sort of protected. And then the final bit, reason why it's important to license is about making sure that you get credit for the work that you do. So this license here, CC BY, I'll say what this means, but BY means you can use it as long as when you use it, you cite me. So you give attribution. Let's go to it. I'm going to go here. Zenodo. So Zenodo is what I use to create my DOIs, and I'm going to go to my DOIs. Here is my entry for this thing. I've forgotten why I was telling you this. Oh yeah. So the CC BY license, I'm just going to make this bigger because says that I want you to give me attribution, and this is the way that I want you to attribute me the citation. So you are always using licenses and citations and things when you reference papers, but we're not used to putting licenses and citations on things other than papers, which means that inherently we've got to get better at practicing using them explicitly. So when you publish a paper, you'll get a license and a DOI automatically. You can also get a license and DOI on your non-paper outputs, such as your software. So who thinks we should all have licenses? Yeah, easy. Is that a hand or a thumb? I'll take it. It disappeared. So yeah, it's so easy to do. If ever you put something in the public domain, any slides that you share, put a license on it, and I'll tell you which ones to use. So licenses give people permission to do different things. On the far, this side, this is the far left, but it's copyright. I didn't want to say far right. But on this side, you are saying no one's allowed to do anything with this thing without my permission. On this side, you're saying anyone can do whatever they want without any permission. I don't care. It's not my problem. Open licenses often sits somewhere in the middle saying, you can use it, but I'm going to ask you to do these specific things. So these very kind of permissive ones, you can do whatever you want. These are some examples of permissive ones that you might have heard about: the MIT license, the Apache 2.0 license, or the CC BY 4.0 license. These are good for, yes, that is Louisa's very nerdy comment. If you love it, then you should have put a license on it. Oops. So these kinds of permissive licenses are great because you want other people to be able to use your work. But the kind of the limit with them is that someone could take your work, and then because you said they can do broadly what they want with it, they could then close it again. So they could build on your work and then close it down. The copyleft licenses are saying you can use my materials, but whatever you do after it, you've also got to put it on an open license. So this is you kind of being a bit more controlled over how what happens with your work downstream. So it's great because it stops information getting like closed down, but it's bad because you're kind of forcing people to be open. And if they're not ready for that openness, they can just not use your materials. So your job is to kind of choose where you sit between these things. Where is our list of links? And if you would like to, you can now rush off and find the repository of a software tool that you like and have a look for their license. While I was doing this, I thought, what's some software that you folks might recognize? Where is it? And I found NiPoppy's repo. If you know NiPoppy, which is a tool developed in JB Pauline's lab, and their license is MIT. So they're saying you can do whatever you want with this. And MIT is a great license because it stops things getting blocked down. So you imagine that kind of image with everyone building on each other's research. If that little block in the middle has a restrictive license, then whatever happens downstream can be really challenging. So if you put a very permissive license on, you can allow your work to be used anywhere. Thank you. Unfortunately, the licenses that are written for code, for example, this MIT license, are not appropriate to put on your documentation. Just here is just me saying that you are already using licenses. When you publish a newer image, you get to choose between one of these licenses, and some are. This one means it's a CC license, so it's for documentation. It's a BY, so want to give attribution. It is NC, which means it can't be used for commercial activities, no commercial, and it's ND, so no derivatives, so you can't make any changes to it. You can choose when you publish in your image or with Elsevier how you want your work to be licensed by just clicking one of their options. And then if you want to know more about this image, about what these different things mean, more open, less open, this is from the Ohio State University Guide to CC Licenses. So you can see even at Elsevier's level, they're giving you a choice to be more or how open you want to be. In general, I CC BY my documentation and I MIT my code. And it took me a while to feel comfortable with putting my code on an MIT license, but I'm over it now. So this is about why you need different licenses for documentation versus code. Like literally the language that is in the legalese of the license is like for software, they're talking about execution and compiling. And we don't really execute and compile documentation, so they're not talking about the same sort of thing. And there's also potential with attribution. And then I just threw this in quickly as well because I know that you're talking about hardware this year, or it might be a focus, but the licenses you have for hardware are also not the same as the ones that you might have for code and documentation. So here it is. So if you're interested in open hardware licenses, there's a lovely guide in here in the Turing Way about open hardware licenses, and it gives you some examples of ones that you could use. Here's the summary slide. A very funny joke from me. Ruan's rolling her eyes. So hopefully by now you are convinced that we want to share our work so we can reach the greatest audience and have the greatest impact. And you've seen how sharing on GitHub can enable you to bring in contributions to make more robust things. So you've already made a contribution by commenting on an issue, and excuse me, that those contributions can be version controlled, like when we looked at the blame and things. And then that final super text heavy bit about licenses was me trying to convince you that we need to be explicit about how we want our work to be reused. We can be more or less restrictive depending on what you're comfortable with, and the terms that you use to just create that restriction need to be appropriate for the context. Who loves licenses now? Yeah, Navi loves licenses. Yeah. They feel like not something that you should be in charge of, because it's like, license. But actually, I think you have got some policy at the neuro level, at least, about you are allowed to open source your materials. Like, this is a decision that you and your PI can make. So you're allowed to apply your open source licenses, and that has come down from the top. Right. We're going to take a short detour now into using GitHub in the terminal and then using it in the website. So I'm just going to demo to you how we use it in the terminal. Feel free to any more chat and questions. So I'm going to demo using it in the terminal, and then I'm going to show you that doing it in the terminal is exactly the same. Well, it does the same thing as using it online. Should I do it in this one? I'm going to do it in this one. Okay. So GitHub, we have all of this material that makes these websites. I've got a copy of that. This is me in Visual Studio. I've got a copy of that on my computer already. And there's also a copy of that on the website, right? So I've made sure that these two copies are synchronized together. And we call those things the one that's on my computer is my local version, and the one that's on the GitHub website is the remote version. So another like cool thing about doing stuff in this way is that you've always got a backup. So if you're doing work on your computer, you can quickly sync it to the website and it's backup. No loss of thesis and stuff. But you can see it's exactly the same. So this is the README in my Markdown syntax. And here is that same README online. If I wanted to, when I'm doing kind of complex-ish working, I like to work locally because then you can like practice making things and stuff. And then when I'm confident that it looks like how I want it to look, I'll sync the changes over to the remote repository. So for our working today, you're not going to be doing anything in your terminal, but I want you to see what it's like so you can make that connection when you look at other workshops and stuff. So I'm just going to do a little practice change here and you'll see the process that I make. So I'm just scroll down all the way to the bottom of this file because no, I'm not going to kill anything. And it's already showing me here that because this whole directory is being tracked with GitHub, it's telling me something has changed here. So I'm going to write, hello, this is a demo edit. Nice. So Visual Studio, there are different ways to edit, different tools to edit in, but this is what I'm using at the moment. I'm going to press Command S to save that. And then when I go to my terminal, And now I'm not being like super explicit about what's happening here. You don't need to worry about the details, but this is the kind of the place where we're working. It's that Turing Way GitHub practice space. And I'm going to say, I know that I've made a change here and I want to synchronize that change online. So my first one is very often git status, which is going to tell me what has changed. Then I know that I'm going to want to push that or synchronize that on the remote. So I'm going to say, add this file that I've just changed. And then I'm going to do this thing called make a commit, which is like a save point. And I'm going to give that commit a message. I'm going to say what I've made in that change. I'm going to say git push, and it's going to push the changes to my remote, and you're going to see how it's happened. So git status. Look, I have modified the README file. So now I'm going to say git add README, and I'll just press tab there because it's filled out the rest of the name. Git add README. No error is good news. Git commit, which is going to be saying I'm going to make the save point. I'm going to make the message, which describes what I've done, is made a test edit. Great. I changed one file and I made 2 insertions, 2 lines of change. I'll say git push. Ta-da, magic. Stuff has happened. Let's go and confirm that stuff has happened. I'm gonna refresh. So this is my last commit message. This is like the reference number of that commit. We can jump in and see that change has been made. So I can do that from my terminal, but you can also do that from your browser if you don't want to get into terminals. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but online. So I'm just going to come to this README again. So instead of changing a Visual Studio, I'm going to press edit out there. I'm just going to delete that thing that we wrote, because who was this collaborator writing this madness? Delete all that. So just made the change in the file, add whatever, and then let's scroll right up to the top. And here I am doing the commit again. Bye, John. I'm going to say what that commit message was. Removed the silly thing. Your commit messages can be whatever you want. And I'm going to commit the change. So same process, commit, send the change, and now it's gone. And here, look, the silly thing is gone. So this is what you're going to practice doing, making a pull request by editing this document online. This is our second exercise. I would love for you to make a change to this repository. But because I don't know who you are, and I don't know what kind of things you might want to do to my repository, Emma, I'm just checking that you're here and ready to think about PRs. I'm going to triage, thank you. I'm going to triage the changes that you make by not letting you make the change directly to my repository. I'm going to ask first that you make your copy, and then you send me your copy and I'll look at the difference. So the way you're going to do that, I'm going to demo this now, and then you're going to do it as well, and you can walk through it. So the first thing you're going to do is to create your copy, you're going to do this thing called fork. Why it has to have these names, I don't know, but these are the names it has. So you're going to use this button to create a fork. Then you're going to make changes to your copy of it. Just like we edited that README online with this little button, you're going to make your changes. Then you're going to save them with your commit. And then magically, GitHub is going to know that you took your copy from this repository. So once you've made your changes, it's going to go, do you want to send those changes back over to the main repository, I can make a pull request for you, and you're going to say, yes, please do that. And then Emma's going to merge them. So this step of making your own copy allows me to triage your edits. If you were a collaborator or contributor that I trusted, I could maybe let you make your changes directly. But for many scenarios, that's not a great idea. So this is how you're going to do your pull request. You're going to press, I'm just checking I'm in the right one. So I'm in the Turing Ways version of this repo, the practice space one we're in now. I'm going to press this fork button. Do you see it said fork a copy, your own copy? And it's put it in my personal place, and it's given it the same name, which is useful. And it's confirmed that that name, that project is allowed to exist because I haven't got another project called that name. We're only going to copy the main branch. Don't worry about that. We're going to say create fork. Magic is happening. Boom. So now we're in my version of that, and it knows that it's forked from here. It's sort of retained that kind of branch history that John was talking about. And these two things are currently synchronized. But I want you to change it. So what I'm going to demo this in a different place. And then when you make your changes, you're going to make it in, or should I do it? No, let's just do it how you're going to do it. So once you've made your copy, I would love you to, let's open up the instructions for exercise 2. Where's it gone? You're going to make your changes and commit them. So the place that I'd like you to make changes to is this file here. So in that practice space, workshops, open science, office hours, exercise 2, but in your version of that file. So here I am, because it's exactly a copy, you have that file as well. Exercise 2. And I'm going to ask you to put your name, today's date, and a link in one of these places. So we don't all tread on each other's toes, let's first choose a line. We ambitiously have 62 lines because that's how many people registered. But here you are, the hero remainers who have managed to last this long. Jump over to this thing called a Framer pad and choose one of these lines. You can start doing this now if you'd like. So I've chosen here, and that Framer pad is listed in a list of links. If anyone wants to drop it in there as well, that's fine in the chat. Thank you. So to make sure that Louisa and I don't write on each other's stuff, I'm going to make my edit on line 1, and Louisa's going to make hers on line 2, and Alice is going to make theirs on line 3. So back over here, my version, I'm going to edit line 1. We're going to go through the edit again. I'm going to put my information on line 1. My name is CastGVP. I'm going to put a link. I'm going to, where should I put a link to? Tell you what, I'm just going to put my LinkedIn. If you want to put your LinkedIn, or you want to put your like something about your research or your institutional profile page or something like that, I encourage you to do that. Let's check again I'm in the right one. So my version. Here is my LinkedIn. I'm not very good on LinkedIn, but if you want to add me, I would love to connect with you and stuff. So this is how we add a link. Right, that's my change. When I made the fork, no one else had changes in there. So that's the only thing. There's no other kind of names. I'm going to commit. I'm going to say add Cass's info. Don't need another S there. And for now, we're going to commit directly to the main branch. People might have opinions on it. This is fine for now. Commit changes. Now, when I go back to kind of like the top level of my repo, still in my one, it says that I'm one commit, one save ahead from the one we forked from. And it's saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to contribute? We're like, yeah, we want to contribute. We're going to open a pull request. We're going to request that they pull in our stuff. And it's telling us that there are no conflicts. And we're going to say, please include my super helpful contribution. We're going to create a pull request. Now, at this time, I can see what's happened here, but you won't be able to see this because I'm like the owner. But Emma is now running away to review this pull request and merge it. How long is it going to take? I'm just going to keep refreshing. So my pull request is still there. I trust Emma will tell us if something horrific happened. But look, my pull request is gone. That means it's been merged. If we go back to our, oh no, it's not the README, was it? It is exercise 2. So here, back in the original one, my change has been brought in. So it's such a long way round, but the basic steps are create your copy, change your version, make the pull request just by letting GitHub tell you how to do it, and then we'll make the merge. So let's see where we're at. Great. Well done, well done. Right, so you are now free to go off and do those things. I'm going to be here if anyone wants to say they're stuck, or we'll work through it together. So I'm expecting now to receive pull requests from Louisa, Alice, Natalia, Naveed, Sylvia, Marie, and your username here, which I'm not going to try and pronounce. That. Apologies. Let's go. Let's see. Let me refresh this. Pull requests. Marie's put a pull request in. So Emma's now gonna merge that. What Emma's doing when she's looking at these pull requests is checking that you haven't accidentally written on someone else's line, because even though we do this, it usually happens. I don't think with you folks it's going to happen, but you never know. So when Emma's merging it, she's going to look at those kind of 2 different files and make sure, either GitHub is going to say, you need to pay attention here because there's a conflict, 2 lines are saying different things, or it's going to say, it's fine, no conflicts, and she's just going to merge them. When your pull requests when you've submitted your pull request, can you pop a little tick up and we'll see where we're going. Now Naveed is in. Yeah. Great. So we'll see this list populated. Whilst that is happening, Marie, yeah, absolutely right. Celebrate that you have just submitted a pull request. You've contributed to someone else's materials via the world's most complicated process of GitHub. So you now, so you've now conquered a massive hill. So this moment, don't underplay it. A question from Alice. How do we make the pull request after committing to our own copy? So I'll show you again. Where is my, let's go back to might get upset now. Alice, how do you feel about sharing your screen? And we can try and walk through it together. Would you be happy to do that? You're welcome to Say no. Oh, she got it. Yeah. Perfect. So the magic is that GitHub just knows because you forked it, it knows that the connection is there. And then when you come back to your own what's it called? Your like the base of your repository, it'll tell you, it'll give you kind of what's happened between those. So my fork is now out of date with the original one because of all your lovely commits that have come in. So I can now synchronize that and it'll bring them back into alignment. Okay. Let me double check. How many did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pull requests. Emma is frantically merging. Bye, Natalia. And let me see. There you go. Pull request that came in. Okay, so Emma's going to keep an eye out for any merge conflicts, just so we can look at that and you can experience what that looks like. But I don't think it will be too much of a problem. So we could talk about this after because I want you to all get out on time and I want the organizers, I want you all to have a bit of time to do what you need to do. But what I would love for you to kind of reflect on is like, it's a merge conflict is like, is this still scary? Like, it's okay if it's still scary, right? But we've shown you that it is possible. You've been there, you've walked through it. We've got materials, you've got people you can speak to. And importantly, you can't break it. Like the whole system is built up, so there is very, very little chance that you'll be able to break something. So all you need is for everyone around you to be entirely sympathetic and supportive, and you should be fine. If they're not entirely sympathetic and supportive, then your job to make them. No. Then that's a culture that we want to support in how we work with each other in these kinds of spaces. We're all learning. Emma, sorry, was that it was in PR number 12? There are conflicts that must be resolved. So I'm going to look at resolving. So I can see this because I've got access to the back end. We're going to resolve the conflicts. I hate doing this. So this is what it was. No, this is what I never understand is like which is this is much easier in like Visual Studio because you can see them side by side, but there's like the current change and the incoming change, like, but they're changes. So what I'm going to do is use my kind of brain and go, what we probably want to keep is the line where we've got everyone's names. So I'm going to manually delete that. Emma can tell me if there's a cleverer way of doing that. I know it's much easier in Visual Studio than it is here. So I'm going to use great. This is how Emma does it too. We look at it and go, what's it probably meant to say? And then we say mark as resolved. Now I've kind of added an additional kind of change after that merge. So I have to commit after the kind of submitted PR. I have to commit that change again, like save it. Great. Now there's no conflicts. So I'm going to steal Emma's glory here and show you what happens is I'm going to say merge a pull request, added Amanda's info. Then I also got Cass fixed a little conflict. Confirmed merged. Great. That's been merged. Let's go back to our code. What were we doing? Great. Naveed, beautiful markdown there. Caroline, didn't quite get the syntax right for your LinkedIn. If you want to go and change that again, you can do that. Equally, it's not the end of the world because we're all friends here. What happened? So what happened was that you've got these square brackets. So it wants square brackets and then normal brackets. So you've got, oops, I'm not in edit mode. You've got square bracket, round brackets and square brackets, and then double sets of round ones. So it doesn't know what to do with that. And instead of saying, I don't know what to do, it's just helpfully done nothing. But we could fix that if we wanted to. In 2 minutes, I want to show you that, as Louisa said, you can make websites. So these are, there's some easier ways to do it and harder ways to do it. An easy way to do it is to use free Jekyll themes. And these are some websites that I've made using free Jekyll themes. They look like good websites, and everyone thinks, oh my goodness, aren't you super skilled and a valuable person to have on the team because you can make websites. So these are the websites that I've made, all using free themes. And good thing is that other people can contribute to them and then they become reproducible. So the website that Stefan and I made for OSR 2020 has now become the kind of the template for how OSR websites have been built since then. You can, this is how to kind of set your repository up to make these websites. You just need to go to settings, this little pages bit, and tell it you want it to become a pages site, and then it links to some more information about how to do it. You can also, we saw like examples of project management, but to kind of really hammer this home, these are some different kind of project management examples that community management is also a lot of project management. So here is the example we saw before, the Book Dash project, where they've all agreed on like when things should be scheduled. Is that an issue? And it links directly to an issue. So you can say this thing that we're discussing, the issue is going to happen at this time. Here is a, you won't be able to see this because it's private, but I wanted to show you that you can use this project management to like do calculations on the stuff that you enter into your repositories. So it's not just like a piece of paper. It's like it's an active thing that you can do. You use information, like extracting information from and work with, and then more sort of familiar might be using like these kind of Kanban style of project management. So this is the one of the Turing Way working groups saying, these are the things that we're ready to work on, and this is what's in progress. And how cool is it for you all to know what the Turing Way infrastructure team are working on currently and what they're stuck around. Oh, I think I submitted that issue to say that bug's not in, or at least I'm partly responsible. So maybe I could help them. So that's the end of the materials. I want to just flag with you now the feedback form, which I would love for you to fill in. And it's just going to ask you about how those things have changed. Like I'm going to ask you, like, do you feel more confident in interacting with GitHub now, more confident than you did before? This is really important to demonstrate to people that it's worth you spending your time in sessions like this, and it's worth Naveed and Ruan creating opportunities like this, and ultimately it's going to save you time and make you better researchers. So please do fill in the feedback form, and if you want to talk to me about anything that you want to try do with GitHub next or any other questions, I'm going to stay on the call. But otherwise, another summary slide. You know how to do these things. You know why you need to license, and you know how to make pull requests. You know that you can make web pages, and you know that you can manage projects with GitHub. So armed with this wonderful knowledge, I release you unto the world of GitHub, and thanks for staying with us. Thanks, Zoya. Right, I'll hand back over to Ruwan and Naveed. I'll stop.